Greetings RC fans, Sharky here and welcome back to Sharky's Garage for this episode 5 of the Optimus Blue build. And today we are going to be building the chassis. We are building a Caiman Chassis, which is an LCG chassis from GCRC, from Gareth Curtis, who hopefully will be joining us remoting in over video call in a little while. But before we get on to that, I'm going to talk about some of the options. I am building this with a Capra base. We'll talk to Gareth about the other options for that. I got a lot of parts from Gareth, and we'll go over that in a second. I've also got some parts at the back there you can see from Small&Sound, from Brian, has 3D printed me some blue parts. So I'm going to run through the options because obviously it's Optimus Blue. And we'll get on to the build and all of that. Thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to do the usual things like comment, subscribe, let me know how things are going with the build and what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. It's always good to hear from you and it helps me and it helps the channel. Let's just talk through some of the options that we're starting off with and we'll go through everything with Gareth when we get him hopefully on in a little while. This is for the Cayman. I didn't get this from Gareth, but it is something that Gareth produced. This was, I think, a limited run, although I think they are now available more. And I got Keldon to blue in the back because it comes, I think, white. So that's been blued. So the most basic version of the chassis build, using the rails. Use the rails, use a centre skid, and use 4 chassis braces. These are a set that I got from Gareth from RRC Customs, which you put one on the front, one on the rear, and one for the shock towers at the top here. And that is your most basic version of this build. Okay, I do have some blue aluminium ones coming, which will probably get swapped in at a stated point. So the next version up from that uses these beautiful sliders that go on the sides. And this has got you can see a slot there with a battery tie down. So these go either side. There's a pair of those. And I've got a front bumper, which will go on there. Okay. So that's the next sort of version. And then you just swapped out one of the front offsets for the front bumper. Okay, the next version up is the same as that, but you've got the rear tray. So if you're running a cab setup, then this may be the way to go. And I may still run this because I do have my body now, and I'll probably show you at the end of the video. So this is the next version where you've literally it replaces the rear, gives you an extra attachment point there, which again can make the rear more sturdy. Put that one on the front, the sliders and that in the middle, and then I've got it in blue. So Brian at Small&Sound Powefoams has 3D printed me a set in blue. So we've got the blue skid, which goes in there. His ones are slightly differently, but I've also got both sides on that for the straps. So both, so you can fit the battery either side, whereas this one only has one side. Okay, so we can have that on there. And Brian has designed a slightly different front bumper. That has 3 holes in it, which will allow for winching. And I've got 2 of those, so I've got one of those for the front and one for the rear if I don't run this. So if you wanted to fit 2 winches, so you wanted a rear winch and a front winch because that's the build and the setup you want, then that is an option. Okay. He also 3D printed me some of these, which are for mounting body posts, but they also, and this is the cool thing that I saw with Landy Kev, they slide over these. I'm not going to force it through, I just need to tolerance it. Okay, so that you can actually put a screw up and then put a screw fixing on the top. Give me 1 second, I think I've got something that will show that. Now this is not the right dimension, I still need to find out where he got his from, but he has something similar to this where the screw goes through the body and then this screws onto the top to mount it down, which I think is quite cool. So I've got Brian to print me some of those, but I need to speak to Kev and to find out that. So I'm not sure yet what way I'm going to build this. I'm going to speak to Gareth hopefully soon, and we can talk through the options and stuff with him, and we'll get back to you with that next segment. Oh, obviously using the Capra Builders kit, bag F is important because in bag F1 you get these 2 long black ones which go into here. Now on the standard Capra it's all in this, so it's just 1 at the front, 1 at the rear. With this you need an extra one, which is why I got the silver one off Gareth, so I'll probably put the silver one in the front and the 2 black ones in the back. But yeah, that is one of the things, you will need an extra one of those for doing this build, because the links go into separate points as opposed to 1 point. It has 2, so you need to put 1 in from each side. But yeah, bag F 1 has got some of the screws that you will need. What I also found was that bag G1 has got a lot of M3 hardware. One's fallen over, but they've got 25 mils, which are these ones. We've got 18s, we've got some 12s, some 10s and some 8s to go with. I think these ones are 13s, I'm not certain. They're a bit longer, which came in with the bag F1. So that gives you all the hardware. What you will need is, I think it's 5, and I'll confirm with Gareth, M3 lock nuts. So I went through my stash and pulled out my blue ones. So I've got those there. And yeah, there's the eBay store, and it's GCRC on all things. So yeah, right. We'll talk to Gareth in a few minutes. I'm joined here by Gareth, who's remoting in on my tablet, and we're going to talk over the Caiman Chassis, a little bit about it, the versions, what you can use to build with it, because it's not just a Capra as a base. You can build it with other things, and also the build options. So, hi Gareth.
Hi, morning all.
Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, because for those of you that have been a fan of the channel for a while, you'll have seen Gareth before. You can see him now sporting his team merch. for a pro team for next year. Yeah, so talk about the Cayman and how it came about, Gareth, quickly.
So it was always a desire that I wanted to have my own chassis. It seemed like a distant dream, but it sort of presented itself over time. So obviously, through starting being a trail dealer, I then got other brands, and that led me to talk to Punks Customs.
Yep.
And Punks are obviously carbon cutters, but they didn't have a chassis. They wanted a chassis, and I said, well, how are we going to go about this then? So I then started asking around for who would do a design service that knew what they're doing with link geometry. Now, I'm a big fan of the ExoCage YouTube, did a lot of my early learning and continue to learn from watching that channel. YouTube is the best learning source, of course. He used a lot of LCGs, he used a lot of Capras. I got into Capras, really was enjoying them.
Yep.
I'd stretched one, I'd made it four-wheel steer, so I knew quite a lot about Capras, but wanted a chassis. So he was driving a Whiskey Down competition chassis then, which was by Spare Time Hobbies.
Right.
So by chance, I was dealing with RC Addicts, and RC Addicts are best mates with Adam Bravuso of Spare Time Hobbies. So I got an introduction that way, and spoke to Adam and said, look, here we are in the UK. I would like to try and build a comp scene, and I want to put a chassis with that behind it to try and build that, and he was all up for it.
Excellent.
So the brief was I wanted easy entry into high performance. So the brief was that it was a chassis that would be a Capra conversion, so you could just bolt on a Capra. It had enough clearance to take a standard Fusion. Now, I know the Pro's smaller now, but take a standard Fusion motor.
Yep.
So it was like a 550 can, and be a high performance rig that favoured a droop setup. So modern geometry, angled bottom skid, yeah, but also would allow anybody to build anything off it. So, you know, we've since seen, you name it, axles or trams has been bolted onto this.
Yep. Yeah.
So I commissioned that. We had test cuts. I've got some up here. It looked a little different then. This was all curved. And out of that came the Cayman.
Yep.
And I gave this chassis design to Punks, and that is their stage dive.
Right, so in America, Punks Customs sell the Cayman chassis as stage dive, and over here it is the Cayman. And the Cayman, obviously, because of the shape of the front and the rear of it, is very much like a Cayman. I'm showing off the stickers because I haven't got my camera on, so Gareth can't see what I'm showing. That he's showing his there, which is the purple version.
Yeah.
So, first production version of the Cayman chassis was what colour? Was it black?
It was raw, so yeah. So that's one of the
Right.
first final versions.
Yeah.
I have up here. Excuse me.
It's all right.
That is how different. So it's.
Oh, right, yeah.
Hanging above my desk and just reminding me where it all started from.
Yeah.
So that's how we started from. Different link positions, motor clearance.
And then
a lot of iterations to get from that to that.
Yeah, and that's through the testing and all of that. So you did a black version, then you did silver.
So silver was the launch edition and came with a silver carbon bumper. Then we followed up with just doing silver as a kit, then raw as a kit, and currently I've got raw, green and purple as kits.
Um,
or individual rails.
Yeah, so I knew about this happening because obviously I've known Gareth a while and knew about the project and stuff. And I said to him, when you do a blue one, I want one, because obviously me and blue. And
Not doing a blue one though.
yeah, and he said, oh, that'll be a while. But I think a conversation happened between you and Punks had some blue carbon left over. And as a result, a set of...
There was somebody, because obviously it's 3 mil carbon, so it's not what you use for most things.
Yeah.
And, you know, a sheet is quite sizable.
Yeah.
So, but Brian had orders for blue stage dives.
Yeah.
And there was going to be excess material. So there was one set of blue rails cut, and so there is one blue Cayman set in the world, and that is yours.
Yeah. So I've got that here, which I am so thankful for, which is how Optimus Blue came out. And then it's got the Dig servo mount as well, which I'm showing off. So the basic formation of the Cayman, the most basic way you can run it is with 4 chassis braces. 1 in the front, 1 in the rear as a front and rear bumper end, 2 across the top for connecting between the shock towers and the skid in between, and that's the most basic formation of it. And then you can add...
Go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
No rear bumper, no front bumper.
No sliders.
And the shock towers.
Yeah, no sliders, and that's the most basic formation of it. The next version up...
And it's based on 70 millimetre rather than 70 is the norm. You get some that are 67 out there. The chassis will work with 67, but the kit comes with 70.
Yeah.
And that's about getting the most motor clearance.
Okay. Then obviously you can add the sliders, and the sliders that come from you, which are awesome. One side has a slot through to attach your battery onto it with a battery strap, which I'm showing off here at my end.
I'm just looking, mine hasn't, because it's an early production one, yeah.
Yeah. So those go either side outside. And
they're interesting as well, because we didn't go with the initial design of those, because Brian at Punks actually makes sliders for pretty much every chassis out there.
yeah.
So we commissioned him to redesign the sliders because we weren't comfortable with them.
Yeah.
So they went through many iterations.
Yeah. So I would say the next version on is that. Then you've got various different bumper configurations. The one that I got from you is a very simple with just a little slope on it for the front.
We call that the cheetah bumper.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheetah bumper, literally because it's got that angle front, you touch it and it pushes up.
Yeah.
It's simple as. But it's the lightest bumper you're going to get.
Yeah. And then there is the back piece, which I didn't get direct from you. I managed to get, I think, from Sean. And mine, I've coloured in the blue bit. It's on the one that you've got on your rig there.
So you mean the bed?
The bed, yeah. So talk to me about the bed and how that came about.
So the guys were running them in test configuration, and though I don't run one, the guys love a power wagon cab.
Yeah.
So we challenged Reese of RRC Customs to come up with a bed, and you can see the bed that he's made actually fits the chassis perfectly. It fills in the gaps and creates a rear bumper, a drop bed, and a flat part that you can velcro your power wagon cab against.
Yeah.
And then he also lined it with carbon.
Yeah.
And you can tell mine's the very first one because the carbon end's short, because it was a test print.
Ah. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And one of the things I need to work out is what configuration I'm going to run in, because I do now have my body. which I got from Mr. Henderson. I'm running a J Concepts. I'm going to run the tucked F250.
I've got one of those coming actually for my homes build.
It's a really, really nice body, and it kind of fits with my background. We've gone through the cheetah bed and how you can run that if you're running a cab. I have, let's say, I've
run that because I wanted to test it.
Yeah.
But actually, I have yet to use a cab on the bed. I know you'd ask, is there a weight penalty with that? And yes, it is slightly heavier than the Spacers, but actually, if you're running cab only, you haven't got that Lexan to the rear, so there's no weight penalty really. It sort of cancels itself out, and this is nice and low, whereas your body can be a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is whether I run that, even though I'm running a full cab, because
you'd be better because you're running a full cab to do that scenario.
Yeah.
Now I've gone super light here, so I haven't even got a spacer right at the very end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would suggest you'd have a spacer.
Yeah. As I say, it's. I'm looking to go. I think my target weight for mine is 2.2. Is where I'm looking at going.
Yeah, 2.2, 2.3 with plastic axles and a 60/40 weight bias is the sweet spot for me.
Right.
That sort of weight, if you've got 60% of it forward, pins it down nicely.
Cool.
This is way less than that, and actually I think it needs a touch of brass up front because the front goes light.
Yeah.
So though this is a more expensive and in some ways higher end build than my actual class 2, I prefer a heavier rig.
Yeah.
But that's my personal preference. You look at the pros and they are super light, and get the most out of that. I just feel my driving style benefits from the being 2.3, 2.4 around there. But most say 2.3 and under.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I've got, and I think Gareth's seen a photo of, because I can't show him because I've turned the camera off on the other thing so it doesn't take up part of the screen. But I spoke to Brian at Small&Sound, and Brian, I think, is the one who 3D printed your coloured skids and stuff that you'd got on that rig there, wasn't it? Did they come from Brian?
Yeah.
Because Brian, Brian has a license from you to work with the geometry and stuff like that, which is why the stuff that comes from Brian has got the GCRC logo in it.
Yeah, so
and
there's a lot of development stuff for us. So obviously we use his Powefoams, but also he's done development stuff. So this was for the Deluxe Fab Trans before Punks had that sorted.
Yeah.
Also, I think he's done battery trays, body mounts, all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
And I'm just chuffed to have people support the chassis with third-party parts. So I've given him the files for the skids and sliders, etc., so he can customise them. But also, if somebody wants, I would like them in blue, I would like them in purple, they can get them.
Yeah. One of the other interesting things between the ones that come from Brian is using nutserts inside his, which means that you don't have any issues with, if you have to take things apart and put them back together, you're not wearing out the ABS or whatever from screwing in and screwing out all the time.
Yeah, that's the same with the Punk's custom bed and our cross members.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sliders have got no thread because you're bolting through them, but the skids you are screwing into a 3D print, and yes, Brian then puts the nut washers in those. Yeah,
and Brian's also developed a front bumper, and I'm going to go back to him and suggest he look at the cheetah bumper to put an angle on it, but it's got 3 holes in it for running servo through, winch through, so that you can use it as a winch bumper. that he's designed. So I've got a couple of those, one for front and one for rear. Yeah, yeah. And I've also got some body mounts that slip over a brace, because I've seen what Landy Kev's done with his. He's got metal things going up, and then he's got a screw on top that screws the body down as he's mounting on the front of his.
We're getting off on a tangent, but what I've got coming is Punk's already selling for their chassis, but it was my design, and that is a servo mount that puts the winch servo between the rails here.
Oh, excellent. Nice. So, coming back on the topic, because obviously I'm cautious of the time, and we're 16 minutes on this section so far. To build the basic Cayman chassis, you need the set of chassis rails, you need the centre skid, you need 4 chassis braces, and you obviously sell a kit that provides all of this. You have the option of the sliders. They're not necessary, but most people will run them anyway. And that's the basic. You do that. You take a Capra builder's kit, if you want the axles, or if you have donor axles to add to it, and that gives you a LCG rig with using the Capra chassis, which has a dig on it, which you've got the dig mount. But to mount all of that up, the Capra has pretty much everything apart from 5 lock nuts, because you'll need 4 for the top mounts, for mounting the top link mounts.
Yeah.
And you'll need an extra one for the dig. So that's the only thing you need extra, apart from the Capra builder's kit or the kit that you buy from you. Anything beyond that, obviously, is how people tailor it, but it makes it relatively easy when they know what hardware they need to do all of that.
Yeah, a 30 millimeter M3 grub screw is another one I would add to that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go.
Capra skid is together front and back, where we've separated. It's not spaced out.
Yeah, I spoke about that earlier in the other video clip, because the Capra kit builder's kit comes with, and I'm showing the screen at my end, it comes with 2 of them, which are black, and the one that I got extra from you is a silver one. So I'm probably, for the sake of OCD, going to put the silver one through the single link at the front, and then put the 2 black ones into the thingy at the back.
I'd be exactly the same, even though you can't see them at all. But
yeah. So, yeah, I need to work out which configuration I'm running, and get on with that. Now, talking briefly about future development, you have got metal chassis rails coming, don't you?
Yes, but they are for C1, so they are flat bottom, not 8-degree skid.
Right, so it will be a totally...
And that's totally new chassis, but it will have the attributes of a Cayman. It'll look like and feel like a Cayman, but it's built around the C1 rules.
Yeah, so it means, I'm just showing the screen, instead of this having an angle here of 8 degrees, it will be flat, because that complies with the C1 rules.
Very similar. Just changing that changes all the link geometry. Also, you've got to allow for a panhard mount, because C1 says chassis on servo, not an axle.
Yeah.
So we've based that around the Element Enduro, but I'm expecting a lot of TRX4 and Basecamp builds. Right,
yeah, that was something I wanted to cover off on. So yeah, when it initially came out, you were looking at Capra. You have done a version, or people have done versions with the TRX4 using the standard Cayman chassis. They've done enduro builds with the Cayman chassis, which I think is Paul running an enduro build.
Yeah. And his daughter is too.
Yeah.
No, Paul's is a SCX 10.3 actually.
So we've got
10.3, and his daughter's an enduro.
So you can build this chassis with the Cayman. Sorry, with the Capra. You can build it with a TRX4. You can build it with an Element Enduro. You can build it with an SCX3 relatively easily.
The difference with the Capra is that's designed to be a direct bolt over.
Yeah, to make it the easiest way.
After that, you might need to do a custom link length. You might have to tweak here and there. So I've just built the Homes Hobbies, or in the middle of, Expert, and I've had to do some custom links on that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, the skids are there. It allows you to do it all.
Excellent.
I suppose we want to get onto the sequence to build the chassis, because there's some tips I can give you there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I was just going to come on to that, because obviously with me running the Fusion and the full length Fusion, you need to, one of the little tips is you need to send, instead of putting the nut on the inside, you need to put the nut on the outside just to give you a little extra clearance because of the full length of the full Fusion. So what's the sequence, Gareth, please?
So I would, first of all, build everything on my skid, so that not me dig, but I've got my trans, my motor mounted on my skid and my lower links.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need that bolt, you will lose access to it. So you need to put the lower links in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the placing of the upper links that you'll do to set the chassis angle, or sorry, the axle angle to the chassis.
Yeah.
So these are a fixed position. This is what gives you the adjustment. Fixed, adjustable. Yeah. And in adjusting the upper links, you're going to adjust the angle of the rear axle.
Yeah.
Now, because we're using standard Capra links and standard Capra axles, we can actually tell you what the best performing holes are to use out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my first trial build, and what we discovered was actually the upper links here, though they make the correct front axle angle for the rake,
Yeah.
it performs better if this is lower.
Yeah.
But if you put it in the bottom hole, it tucks into the skid. There's a little recess in the skid.
Yeah.
So actually, the first thing I would do is skid with lower links attached, motor and gearbox attached. So you've got that as one piece.
Yeah.
Okay. Put the axles and the shocks to one side. You don't want to think about those for the moment. Okay. You then connect your upper links, and instead of using the hole that I've used there, you would use the rear bottom hole there, 3 down.
Yeah, so I'm showing on the screen here closer to, you've got 3 at the back there, and it's the bottom one there is the one that Gareth is suggesting to give you the best geometry.
Yeah. So your starting point is going to be 2 skids,
yeah.
Sorry, 2 rails with those front upper links mounted.
Yeah.
Then you're going to take your skid that's got your lower links attached to it, and you're going to bolt in your skid with your sliders, so because the bolts go through your sliders into the skid, and then you're creating a sandwich that is your skid with your motor and ESC on, and lock that together.
Yeah.
Okay. What I like to do then is basically anywhere is put in 2 cross braces. They're going to move, but I just like to have that bit of stiffness,
yeah.
so they're not flopping round. So one front and back, or front bumper and a rear bar, something like that, just to give it a bit of stiffness.
Right.
Then what you've obviously at that point got your gubbins in the middle, you've got your sliders, you've got your upper links attached to the chassis, you've got your lower links attached to the skid. So I will introduce the front axle. Not
yeah.
the shocks, just the front axle. And that should form, because where we've asked you to put those and their standard links, it should form the correct rake and the optimum performance.
Okay.
But normally at that stage is where you'd be, if if you're in a custom build, you might be tweaking with rod ends and whatever to get the reg you want, but you'll get that out the box using those.
Yep.
Yeah. Then do the same with the rear. So you would connect the rear links to the axle.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, no shocks involved. And you would have the upper links connected to the axle, and you will introduce them to the chassis rails so that the rear is vertical. And I tend to use that hole there, the bottom one and furthest most in. So actually I'm using those two holes for the upper links.
So what Gareth's talking about is at the front of these set, because there's 4 on the front row, 3 on the rear row. He's using at the front, he is using the bottom of the 3 at the rear, and at the back he is using the bottom of the 3 at the rear.
Yeah, and this one at the front you want to do first because it'll be inside the slider, and the one at the back, not a problem because it clears.
Yeah. Cool.
That will give you rock solid geometry, because what we've found actually with the front being together and the front being low, it gives plenty of articulation for best performance.
Yeah.
And with the back axle, with the back being low and it being at the top here, you're getting the most anti-squat out of it.
Excellent.
So you can lay down your shocks but still have a little bit of resistance.
Cool. Okay.
Anti-squat.
So that's all of the...
Then once you've then got to a situation where you've got front and rear axles attached to the chassis by just the links, and I still leave shocks alone at this point, what I then do is fit drive shafts.
Right.
To make sure that they can all move, clear, whatever. And then the last thing I do is, it's not the last, but I then introduce the shocks. And I tend to want as much droop as possible, so use one of the top holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get the most droop as possible. But what you're looking is you can see, or hopefully you can see there, is you compress mine, the chassis and the axle are almost meeting.
Yeah.
So if you can get it that you get in where the travel on the shock finishes, it's as high to the chassis as possible.
Yeah.
But not touching it or just touching it, then you are not losing any travel.
Yeah.
But you are getting the maximum out of that.
Yeah. So just to show,
and it's much the same. Yeah, you can see that my rear just comes short of the chassis.
Yeah. I mean, the rear mount, so on the front set, you're looking at pretty much one of the rear holes up here. But again, it's down to individual tailoring and also what shocks you're running, because you're running dravs, I'm running dravs, but if you're running Desert Lizards, then that may be different. If you're running Enduros, that may be different. So, the setup we're showing you here, we're talking about using DravTech, 90mm DravTechs, and the standard Capra axles.
Yeah, and we want the front laid back so that it droops fairly easily. The back, we lay it back, but we actually use stiffer springs because if the back was to completely droop all the time, it would sit in this position where climbing, and what you do is it then judders rather than gripping and going forward. So I run stronger springs in the rear.
And that's the setup I've got as well.
The fact that my front can droop down and the back can push up, it's actually pushing me into the rocks. Yeah,
digging you in. Cool. Right, so that's pretty much it. Go on.
Then you put your spacers in.
Yeah.
A nice way to do spacers is, as I've done on the rear there, is that your shocks go into the spacer because that gives the shocks the most rigid that you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But set them as you see fit. It's all about them fitting it in. And the very last thing I do is set up the dig.
Yeah.
Mine's buried in the electrics there, but
yeah. Cool.
And you might have to undo a few things to get that dig in, but really you want to do that last.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to crack on and get on with that off camera and do all of that. I mean, we're now at 31 minutes. Moving forward, lots of new projects coming. We've spoken a little bit about the C1 metal chassis. There may be other chassis coming in the future. Maybe something for the Capra 1/18 scale.
Is where we've got that in development,
and
we're developing more options for the chassis.
Excellent.
And we're also, one of the criticisms of the Cayman, you've got to remember that this was designed so that you could swap it straight over to a Capra, is that place there is just a marginal place where you can hang up. So if you had custom lower links, you could move that forward and eliminate that.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't meet the brief of it being a straight swap over, but we're going to offer that as an upgrade as well, that there's a custom skid and link set to
excellent.
Get the last bit of performance out of it.
Excellent, excellent. And maybe at some point in the future we will see an 18th scale Cayman. Maybe at some point in the future, maybe even a 1/24th scale Cayman. With C24 kicking off on the 7th of January. And I'll be seeing Gareth there, because I'm sure I did notice that there's some new trophies and stuff have shown up on certain of the groups that are going to be handed out. So I
could give you an exclusive as well, because we've just signed the Northern Series. So Southern Series, as you know, is going to be BERCC, but the Riverside Complex in Cheshire is going to do the Northern Series.
So that's 1/10 scale, so using the standard Cayman chassis, any other chassis, any other 1/10 scale. So there's going to be a Northern Series, there's going to be a Southern Series, and then I think you're going to focus on more of the charity ones for the ones that you're running directly, is that right, for this season?
That's correct. Yeah, and we've also got to look at doing a Champion of Champions for those people that trophy in the Northern and Southern Series.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Gareth. Very much appreciated. We're now coming up to 34 minutes.
Sorry, I waffle on.
Don't we always when we get together? So I will get all of that cut together. I will do two versions of this. One will go into the Optimus Blue build, and one I'll do as a separate video that will go onto the GCRC playlist, which I have on my channel. As I say, thanks very much for the time. Have a great Christmas, and I will catch you, if not before, I will see you on the 7th of January at Grafton Water Sailing Club for C24 Round 1.
Thank you.
Having spoken to Gareth, hopefully you found that interesting. I mean, I know that was a really long segment, but hopefully you'll find that really interesting. I'm now going to build my Cayman, and the decision is as follows. I'm going to run the blue front bumper, I'm going to run the rear tray and the blue gear. Although Gareth said to attach everything on to start off with, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take it all apart again, because I have, although I'm going to start off with these RRC spacers, I am going to run the alleys when they get here. The other thing is the RRCs do come with these, which serve as standoffs outside for your shock mounts. So dig is going to be the last thing. As far as these are concerned, I'm going to put the two black ones which came with the Cayman, with the Capra kit, the rear. These go on to one of these, which is a 1.5 mil hex, and then the rest of it you need a 2 mil hex for. for doing the M3 hardware. I'm going to crack on and build it and then come back to you with it built, because we've spoken enough about it. Let's get it done. I'm using the blue skid. This is where the transmission is going to sit. I'm not screwing it on at the minute because I'm going to take it all apart again. But top tip, don't know whether you can see, but I have marked using a ruler, because it's 70 wide, 35 is the middle, okay, because you need to make sure these are screwed in as far as possible. So there is against the middle, and there's where the outside is, so that I can screw them in part way, and then you just need to alternate sides to get them to the middle. But if you know roughly where they are, it's going to make it easier to get it equal and into the middle, because I'm a little bit OCD about it. So the two black ones are going in the rear, silver one in the front, and again put the silver one against the brace there. You can see that that is approximately halfway, which knows that I need to get it to there to get it to do that, and it's not going to impinge on these this side. I'm going to get all of that put together. So next quick update, using the 1.5mm driver, I've put them in, both of the rear set in, so that it's just flush on the inside there. Same I've done with the front one. You can see I've screwed them in so they're almost to the edge and flush. Once I've got them flush, I'm then going to do them so that they're approximately to this point here, so knowing how far in that is. So putting that in, putting my nail against the edge there, moving that to there. Okay, that means that it needs to be there, and then I will screw that into that point. Okay, sorry, screw that into that point. So that's the rear fully seated. See, they're sitting just inside both sides there. Now going to fit the front. Right, that's the front and rears in. Now we can attach the chassis rails, step 2, as per Gareth. Right, that's one side done. Just to say that I'm using the M312s, the 13s that go for that came with the other bag of bits. The ones that had got the two blacks in for there are actually a bit tight. I accidentally put 2 of those into the middle 2, and they were a little bit long. So M312s for into the skid. Another quick top tip, you can see here there's a gap. I've put the screws in a little way, so I put one end in, I've put all of them through, I put the other end in, screwed that in a part way, then screwed the middle ones in before I tighten down. Because however good people's 3D printing is, there can be micro differences between it. It's not CNC machinery because it's 3D printing. So as I say, I put one end in, I put the other end in, I put the 2 middle ones down, and then before I tighten it down. And I think you can see there, front, tighten down the front, I've tightened down the rear, and then I'm going to tighten down the middle 2 ones. Right, so that's it laid out with the centre skid on. We're now going to do front bumper. I've pulled out some more M312s, and I'm going to put this in the rear and put that on before I attach the links, because this is the running order that Gareth said. He said upper links on axles, lower links to skids. Because I'd already built that together, yeah, but we're still putting the lower links into the skid first. Skid on the rails with the sliders, well, we don't do that now. We put the sliders on after we've put the other links in, because of the situation with using the hole at the front down here for the better geometry. We'll do that in a minute. So we're going to put the front and rear bumpers on, and then we'll move on to doing that next bit. So that's the front bumper and the rear tray attached. Next is attaching the links. Bear in mind that with this on, the motor this side, this link you need to put it through with the nut on the outside to give you an extra little bit of clearance around the full length Fusion motor, because I'm running a original Fusion as opposed to the Fusion Pro, so it just gives you that little bit of extra clearance. So you can use a standard nut, but I have one of these, which is what I'm going to use to do it. Obviously this just fits inside, so I'm going to use a pair of pliers to hold that and then turn this from the outside to make it easier, because it fits, although it'll be harder to do the other side. Right, I don't know how well you can see, but that lock nut is not going to fully seat into this lock washer. Okay, so I'm going to switch the 13s up to 18s. So the 13s came out of one of the bags, the 18s came out of the other. There's a load of the 18s in the other bag, so I'm going to use the 18s to give me a little bit more. It's going to give a little bit of thing through, but I can always hacksaw them off afterwards if I need to. That's the front and rear on. So we now have on the next thing. I mean, we have got the skids to go on. Now, the skids, the ones that are printed and the one that I got from Gareth, they have got, you can see there's multiple holes, but actually it's only the front 3 of those that are there. And because of that there, I suggest we might, yeah, it should sit tolerance wise there. So put the front one on, then take these 2 out and then put that in, which will be one of the jobs I'll do in a minute. So then you're keeping 3 in, put that one through there and in, and then twist it up, or take these 2 out, twist it up, and then put those 2 in, is how I'll do that. And then we come into the shock mounts, which these, I don't know whether you noticed, 2 here are where Gareth has suggested we start for the positioning. So it's one down from the point on that side, and it's the back one at the top for that side for where I'm going to mount the shocks. So I'm actually going to mount the shocks before I do the skids on screw length. Again, these 13s are not really long enough. I might switch some of those in if I need a little bit more with having skid. So I've switched to 18s. I've put 2 spacers on, and then we're just going to screw it through and into the support bar in the back there. Come across a problem. This back tray is 75, not 70. I wondered why it was a little bit stretchy when I did that, so I'm going to take that out and then I will switch to running the blue rear bumper, which I know is 70. Just got the skids to add. Obviously, because of the issue with the 75mm as opposed to 70mm on the rear, we've switched to the rear bumper. 70mm spacers in there, which we swatched out for the blue ones when they arrive on the front. And I just need to look at those shocks again. The rear is okay. I think we might need to go stronger shocks on the front, stronger springs on the front. It may be that this one might need a rebuild, because there's one of them that's just a little bit slower. So next thing is to put the skids on, and then we are done. Just doing the skids. So I've got the front screw in. You see it sits there nicely. I'm just going to take these two out and put that side on, and these two out and take that side on. So it keeps it all lined up and in place. If you do those front ones first, they'll sit there, and then you can lift them up and in place and screw the final two in. That's it. I've finally got it together. All done. So front end this end, rear end this end. I think we need to look at those shocks, Sean. Sean, I think we need to look at these shocks. The fronts, the rears are fine. The fronts, I think we're going to have to go up to a set of mediums. So, I mean, it may be when we get a bit more weight, we can get the servo, steering servo and stuff on the front. But yeah, so that's it all compressed down. That's it made. Take the transmission off. You can see, got that there. I love it. It's amazing. It's stunning. So what have we got in the next episode of the Optimus Blue build? Well, next time we're going to deal with the electrics. We're going to do a bench test on all the electrics and fit those. I am picking up later today the final part that I need to do, which is a battery. I do have a battery, which I'll show you in a second, but it's not quite big enough to give me the punch I need. So we're going to bench test the electrics, we're going to fit the electrics, we're going to fit the drive line, and we should have a fully functioning thing next time, which is why the dig servo is not on. So that's going to need mounting on the far side there. You can see there's still a blue in there, and there's a 10mm M3 in there for that, which will fit onto the far side here. We put the battery strap on. We haven't got the steering servo fitted. So yeah, all the electronics, all the drive line going in the next episode. Apart from the battery, I have got all the parts. I do have a 3S battery, but that's only a 25C. It's not going to be punchy enough, but it should be enough to bench test it. But I'm picking up a battery, should be later today. I'm waiting to hear from Steve at King's Lynn Models. My Fly Sky GT7P has arrived with two things. So that's that. And a massive thank you to Ian Henderson at lcgcrawler.co.uk. I have got my body, which is a J Concepts 1989 Ford F250 tucked, and that is what I'm going to run on here. That will be in a later thing. So next time we'll deal with the electrics, and then we'll do wheels and body and all of that in the last one, and probably some testing, probably without running the body, because I may get the body painted. Right, that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching. I know it's been a long one, especially if I've included the Gareth bit. I may cut out the Gareth bit because it is 30 odd minutes long, and I may do three versions. I may do the full version, which includes the Gareth bit. I may do a shortened version, which is just my build, and I may do a separate video, which is just the Gareth bit as well. So catch you all in the next episode where we deal with the electronics and the driveline.